It's all right. Just want to give you some of the love you give me. Everybody ready? I'd like to welcome you to the July 28th meeting of the Jefferson County Board of Education. From 4 to 6 p.m., the board heard presentations from our 4 finalists for the JCPS School of Innovation Design Competition. The board is scheduled to vote to determine the School of Innovation competition winners at the August 11 meeting. At 6:50, there was a called meeting of the Board of Directors of the Jefferson County School District Finance Corporation. At this time, would you please join us in our traditional moment of silence, after which we will have the Pledge of Allegiance, after which Mr. Brady will lead us with will read our vision statement. So at this time, would you please join us for a moment of silence? Please stand for the pledge. Mr. Brady.
The JCPS Vision 2015 vision statement is, all JCPS students graduate prepared to reach their full potential and contribute to our society throughout life.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the minutes, is there a motion to approve the minutes of June 23rd and July the 18th? Mr. Brady, second. Ms. Duncan, all those in favor? The motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Recognitions and resolutions? There are none. Okay. Consent calendar and the superintendent's report. Dr. Harkins, your report.
Thank you very much, Chair Porter, members of the board. It's my pleasure to call to your attention a few items of special interest. Like Ms. Porter, I want to thank the finalists for their school improvement or for their School of Innovation presentations. The finalists were the K-5 Metro Museum School, Next Generation Community School, the Catalpa School, and Louisville Reach Academy. I want to thank Jonathan Lowe and the team who led us through the process and for this community in engaging in discussions about how to innovate to promote student achievement. Our last meeting was June 23rd. Lots has been happening. The Cabinet attended PELP, the Public Education Leadership Project at Harvard University. The approach was a case study approach that included case studies from education and from business. The discussions were facilitated by education and business professors. Teams from 18 large urban districts participated. Teams defined a problem of practice and a strategy to address the issue. Our problem of practice was that central office is not always sufficiently informed by or responsive to the experiences, ideas, knowledge, and concerns of those in schools. The strategy involves a Kaizen problem-solving structure, and we will keep the board updated on the result. The GE Foundation Education and Business Summit included both an educator convening and a business convening. I'd like to thank Eileen Pickett, Mark Shirtness, and Sam Corbett for attending the business portion of this conference. Educators include JCTA President Brent McKim, myself, and other JCPS employees. Speakers at this conference included Stanford professor Dr. Linda Darling-Hammond, the Honorable Bob Weiss, now president of the Alliance for Excellent Education, Chief Diversity Officer for Walgreens, Steve Pemberton, Robert Balfance, the research scientist at Johns Hopkins, Joel Klein, now CEO of Amplify News Corporation, Dan Heath, the author of Switch, and a senior fellow at Duke, Alan Grossman, professor of management at Harvard, Paul Ravel, professor of education at Harvard, and Candice Penteato from the people side, who gave each participant their EQI, or emotional intelligence assessment. We appreciate the GE Foundation for their many years of working with this district to develop the capacity of our educators. We'll all remember that the GE staff developers were scaled up to be Goal Clarity coaches. This is really our final year of the grant, but we look forward to continuing our collaboration with the GE Foundation. On June 20th, 2014, our board adopted the Males of Color Resolution, joining 60 large urban districts. We appreciate Mike Casserly and the Council of Great City Schools for leading this effort. For JCPS, our males of color represent over 19,000 African American males, 4,000 Hispanic males, and 3,000 others. That is a quarter of all of our students. That exceeds the capacity of the Yum Center. Imagine the collective impact that 60 districts working together can have. Chair Porter and I were honored to represent JCPS. President Obama participated in a town hall meeting directly answering questions from students. This is part of a national plan to make 2014 a year of action focused on expanding opportunities for all Americans and to address the persistent opportunity gaps. The JCPS 2014 Administrative Leadership Kickoff was held on Tuesday, July 22nd. Congratulations to Ms. Wesland for the recognition of her service to the board. David Novak, the president and CEO of Yum Brands, was our keynote speaker. A counselor sent the following email. Then to have Mr. Novak share his tried and true wisdom and experience with leadership, undeniably exhilarating, renewing, and a great dose of hope for this coming year. Stakeholders are currently engaged in reviewing the strategic plan and its 36 strategies to bring them into clearer focus. We will be bringing that work to the board for review. Currently, we have 26 new principals that will, for the 14-15 school year. Some started last year. That's about 17%. So I just want to go through those new principals. Houston Barber, remember, started last year at Shawnee. Jack Jacobs is the principal at Bloom. Jamie Wyman at Carter Traditional Elementary. Tracy Barber moved to Dunn. Linda Hudson became the principal last year at Farnsley. Nathan Meyer at Fern Creek. Faye Stroud is at Frost 6th Grade Academy. Sam Cowan is at Gilmore Lane. Dwayne Wright is at Hartstern. Joseph Wood at Indian Trail. David Armour at Camera. Stephanie White, her picture's not up there. She became the principal at King Elementary. Mark Boyer, Klondike Lane. Catherine Gibbs at Knight. Austin Elaine began last year at Lowe. Justin Matson at Middletown Elementary. Karen Sturman at Okolona. Ryan Radowski at Olmsted Academy North. Kim Soller at Pleasure Ridge Park. Nicole Marshall just was named in the last week as the new principal at Roosevelt Perry Elementary. Kim Harbolt at Seneca. Kevin Garner at Shacklet. Delana Alexander began last year at South Park and Westport Tap Schools. Renee Bledsoe at Stewart. Linda Dowenhauer at Tully. Bill Perkins moved to Wilder Elementary. And what I want to mention, one thing on the consent agenda that Kathy's going to pull up, for your field trip approvals by the superintendent, there were 4 requests for Wheatley Elementary. The school did not take any of those field trips, so I would like to remove those from the approval. And you can see them right there. So we're deleting the last 4, which are Wheatley. They did not take those field trips. And Chair Porter, at this time, I recommend the consent calendar for your consideration.
Thank you, Dr. Harkins. Before we do the consent calendar, there is one tie, be it Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir. Okay. Item numbers 3, 6, 178, and 190 on bid ID 6918 for plumbing, supplies, and equipment. line item. There's one draw for 4 items, and the item is awarded to Masters Supply.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the consent calendar, are there items to be pulled down from the consent calendar? Ms. Westland?
Item D.
Other items, Mr. Brady?
Item G.2.
Other items? Okay, we'll go back starting with item D, the approval of the organizational charts. Ms. Westland?
Yes, I just have a question, Dr. Harkins. We've discussed this before, and I see this back on the agenda. I don't have a problem with the title change and job description change, but I still have questions about what's your vision in moving PTA, SBDM coordinator, community programs from communications and community relations to the diversity, equity, and poverty programs. It seems to me diversity, equity, and poverty has got a really specific and very important focus, and these other jobs seem to me fit within communications and community relations, and they're broader and certainly need to be diverse, but so does everything needs to be diverse in the district. Can you update your thinking around why you'd move that group of people from now the communications area is pretty thin. There may be people not here on the org chart. I never understand how many. There may be numbers that aren't reflected here, but that's also a very important area. Everything we do, we say we need communications beefed up and community relations and all of that, and they're losing people. So,
Okay, and actually that move was to move the Volunteer Talent Center to the Equity Division, and that really is to make sure that we have volunteers in all of our schools. In particular, the volunteers, we have 2 really important programs. Everyone Reads and what we call the Watchdog programs, which are dads of great students. So we want to make sure that we expand those to all of our schools and that we equitably distribute volunteers. A year ago in the organizational structure, all of those things that you described, Ms. Wesleyan, hung together. So it was SBDM, CEP, which is Melissa Barman, and then also parent, Sharon Whitworth. So all of those things hung together. So I met individually with all of those people and said, you've worked together as a team, and we're just going to move you to not be disruptive. And if in the future there's a better place to place you that makes more sense in the organizational structure, we will be nimble and make that change at that time. But the real impetus is to make sure that we scale up the number of volunteers that we need throughout the district in an equitable way. So, so that's the thinking behind it.
so the volunteer person who's has this big job of getting volunteers oversees SBDM, which she's really busy helping SBDM's higher principals, and PTA, she's going to oversee that too. She has been.
Well,
No,
and
she has
actually
been.
they've been successfully working together for a year, and even SBDM is kind of unique. So they've been successfully working as a group. And I met with each one of them to say, why would we disrupt that? So the thinking was not to be disruptive. So PTA actually has worked very closely with the Volunteer Talent Center and are very interested because the Watchdog program is a nationally recognized PTA program as well to help partner to scale up that effort. So that's the thinking behind it.
Mr. Brady?
I'd like to follow up on this particular point regarding these 16, I think I counted 16 positions that are going from the communications department to the new chief equity officers department. I've got a concern about this because I'd really like to ask the communications director about what they would think about this, but we don't have a communications director, which leads me to the bigger concern that I feel like that's, to some degree, we're rating a department that doesn't have a head to it. So this position has been open for a couple of months now, and we, as Member Westland had mentioned, and you'd even mentioned during the leadership kickoff, that communication is one of our big rocks now. We have got to get at least my view, we have got to get a communications director into this. I know that we want to be diligent, we want to get the right person, but we've had a few months now. We're a fairly large organization. I think it's time to be able to, to get up on this and to really get someone in here in this position. I have a very big growing concern that there are a great number of people who are employed by this district, not just the parents and the students, but people that are employed by this district that are getting the majority of their news about this district from reporters out in the field, from the media. Now, granted, there's reporters out there, and one in particular is very good at her job, but it's really our job to be the point of the point of communication and the point for getting information about this district. And I'm concerned that we're really, really, really losing our ability to do that, especially as this position continues to be unfilled.
And actually, that position will be filled soon. And I really want to commend the communications team for the way that they've pulled together and have worked well together. So even though that is a big rock, I certainly want to commend them for their hard work and the way that they have worked to do that. So there certainly is work to be done, but we will have that person. But I see no disruption in what's happening with any of those areas by moving that, and we will have a communications director soon.
I have
Ms. Westland.
one more question about that. We'll have a communications director soon, and you've been interviewing for that position. Do the people who you're looking at know that org chart has changed significantly?
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Okay, moving down to G2, the new elementary school at Norton Commons. Mr. Brady.
Now, this is the first time that I have had a chance to take a look or to be involved in the creation of a new school here, or building a new school. And I was concerned to see that we're approving an architect so soon. And maybe I'm wrong here, but I thought that as a board, we should see some plans that were coming from some of these other architects that would have bid for the school, and seeing what type of features that some architects might put in, whether or not there's going to be an architect that's going to look for creating maybe a safe room for students, or if we're going to use sustainable technologies to be able to, to be able to utilize in this new building. And I'm concerned that by doing this, it seems like I feel like we're just a rubber stamp. And I think this is one of our major responsibilities as a board, to ensure that the facilities that we're approving are going to meet students' needs. So I'd just like to know, is this the normal process, or shouldn't we be more involved with finding out different plans and what the different proposals were?
Am I on?
Yeah.
This is the normal process, and a couple things about this architect that then I'll address some of your questions. This architect had designed our schools both at Farmer and at Stouffer, and has done design work inside Norton Commons as well. But really, to your question, time is of the essence. However, now that we've designated an architect, and one that we know from previous experience as a capable architect, we can mention to them the very things that you've brought up. What are ideas that you have, and what sustainable things could you do? And from that, they'll give us options as we sit down with them. Now, it would be very easy then to come back to the board and say, here's what we're looking at. But this is the typical process that's done in this district and the other districts I've been in.
Well, my sons go to Farmer, so I've been inside Farmer many times, and it's a nice facility, as is Stouffer, which is also in my district. I just want to make sure that we're looking at things that we can be leaders in, and that we can be an example for other districts. And as nice as those buildings are, I don't really see anything that's really bold about those buildings. And I think that going forward as a district of our size, I think we should take more of a leadership role, and also especially in sustainable materials. And as I was thinking maybe a safe room. I think that security videos that we've seen from schools that have been hit by tornadoes have shown that the hallway is not always the safest place to be in a building. So it's a concern that I have that when we start building new buildings, that we take those things into consideration. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions about the elementary school at Norton Commons? Okay, at this time, is there a motion to receive the consent calendar? Mr. Brady, second.
wait. I'm sorry, could we vote on D separately? I'm sorry. Mhm. I'm sorry, not.
So the motion is to approve the consent calendar, not item D. Is that your motion, Mr. Brady? Is there a second, Mr. Jones? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Is there a motion for the approval of the organizational charts? Mr. Jones, second. Mr. Brady? All those in favor? Mr. Brady, Ms. Haddad, Ms. Duncan, Mr. Hathaway, Mr. Jones, Porter. Those opposed? Ms. Westland. Okay, thank you. The next agenda action item is the contingent approval to purchase the Presbyterian Community Center. Dr. Hargens.
And actually, what we wanted to do, we put this on action, and Dr. Razor is going to talk a little bit about it in the Strategic Facilities Usage Plan, which is the second action item. But what we wanted to do is point out that this is a perfect example of our strategic plan has really set strategic priorities, one of which is early childhood. And when this opportunity to recommend purchase of the Presbyterian Community Center came to light, it was a perfect example of being able to take advantage of an opportunity in the community at a cost savings to the district, more or less cost than actually building a facility, to be able to purchase something that aligned completely with our strategic plan. So I just wanted to point out that that is a real opportunity that we're bringing to you for your approval for purchase of the Presbyterian Center.
Questions? Mr. Brady?
Not really a question so much, but I just want to say I want to commend the district on this. The district is moving fast. The operations folks are moving fast to be able to make some changes here. You know, I found out about this because my niece was actually one of the people who was, my young niece, was at the daycare of the Presbyterian Community Center, and I found out about this on Thanksgiving of last year when they were handing out the notes to all the parents coming in. And although this will not be, you know, something that my sister-in-law can take advantage of anymore as a single parent, but I think it's a really good, great thing that we're doing, not only as from a cost savings perspective, but also for this community. Something that the superintendent may not have mentioned is the fact that, you know, the city of Louisville has invested about $96.5 million in this area, and especially to redevelop Shepherd Square Apartments, which is right next door to this development. So we're coming in there. We're really doing some infill. We're meeting a need in this particular area of town that really needs it for early childhood. It's brought in another almost $46 million in other investments in the area. So it's something that we're excited to be a part of that. And you know, I think that and correct me if I'm wrong, and Dr. Razor, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but the assessed value of the building was, what, $6 million? Something like that? Something around, or Cordelia?
Well,
you can give me a guesstimate.
the $6 million is if we were to build that building again,
Okay.
then it would be around $6 million. The Presbyterian Center, the area where the early childhood facility was, that in itself had over $1 million investment for them just to add that section on. And the purchase price that we have offered is $1.5 million. So it definitely, we're getting a good value
Exactly.
for that particular facility.
So I think it's important that the public understands the types of cost savings that the administration is really trying to implement here. And I also want to say that, you know, there has been some talk in the media and in an opinion section about the board, because we've approved a school in Norton Commons, is ignoring parts of Louisville. And I can tell you that that is not the case, and this is an example of one reason why this is not the case. I also know that over the last 25 years, JCPS has spent about $257 million in capital projects in West Louisville. and that's constituting about 40% of all capital project spending. So this is another example of the fact that this board and this administration in particular is really taking a look at trying to do some really good cost-saving analysis and also repurposing existing structures and also filling community needs. So I just want to commend the superintendent and her staff on this.
Ms. Haddad.
I am pleased too that we are getting this building because we do need it for early childhood. There's a great need up in that area. And this was just a wonderful opportunity for us. And it will also maybe at some point we can use it for extended learning. As we get in there, we can still use it for that community because that community is going to be rebuilding again. So it's a great opportunity. The early childhood people are really excited, and that's what we need to do, get these young ones early so we can make a difference for them.
I'd like to speak to it briefly since it is in District 1. It is a great opportunity for us to enhance and enlarge the early childhood program. What we know for sure is that we have more students that need early childhood. This will be one of the facilities that we can use to make that happen. It's in very close proximity with Dawson Orman, which was the conversation we had initially about buying this building. But the thing that is important to know is that the Presbyterian Community Center has a rich history in Smoketown, and we do not want to lose that history just because we're buying the building. There's a rich history that lies within that building and in that area. And the revitalization of Shepherd Square will enhance the number of potential children that can attend there. So I think it is a great idea. There are some concerns in District 1 about dollars, and we'll talk about that on the next agenda item. And I appreciate the information that we have received. But for this particular item, we're talking about the approval of the Presbyterian Community Center. Again, thank you to the district for realizing that we need to have more students in early childhood education. Thank you to the district for realizing that we are acquiring a facility that has a rich history. There has been a Presbyterian Community Center for many, many years. So we are not getting rid of that concept. We are allowing students another opportunity to be involved with early childhood education and other uses of that facility. That's not the only thing that we will do in that building. Are there any other comments? Okay, is there a motion to approve the purchase? Mr. Brady, second. Ms. Haddad, all those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. The next item under the action item is the approval of the Strategic Facilities Usage Plan. Dr. Razor.
Good evening. If you'll recall, starting in November, and actually before that, the request was made for a comprehensive facilities plan. And as we embarked upon that plan, we realized that it just wasn't about facilities. It was about programs. It was about trends and the projections that we can make from those trends. So in November, I came before the board and I gave a very general description of the trends and projections that we were making across the district based on the data that we had. From that, I came back in March and I gave a set of initial general recommendations. And when I say I've been sort of the face of this, but I've had lots of collaboration and lots of helps from student assignment demographics, academics, and input from other departments across the district. And from that, last month we came back with a focused plan for the next 3 to 4 years. And that's kind of how I'd like to take that from here is next year I would be back in front of you and we'd be looking one more year down the road, 4 years in advance, because that's about how far out we feel like we can safely project and not get out there. Something that I've been thinking about and we've been thinking about the whole time we do this is we want to be nimble, but at the same time, while being nimble, we don't want to be careless. So I'm bringing forth the following recommendations. However, to give this the full picture, they were preceded by some actions that we had to take in advance. First of all, the creation of the 6th grade center at what was Frost Middle School. Valley adding a 7th and 8th grade, Phoenix moving to Myers, and the Myers 7th and 8th grade moving to Wagner, early childhood classrooms being put in Myers, and at the last board meeting, the approval of building a school at the Norton Commons location. So I bring forth the following recommendations. We create an additional elementary school in Cluster 8 at the current site of Kennedy Metro Middle School to open in the 15-16 school year. Early childhood wings at the following sites. The new elementary school to be built in Norton Commons in the 16-17 school year. A wing at the Presbyterian Center, Atkinson Elementary, Maupin Elementary, and Stewart Middle School, all to open in the 15-16 school year. Additional English as a second language services at Hazelwood Elementary. And also, as part of this recommendation, one of the recommendations I made in June was to combine Liberty and Phoenix. After getting feedback from the board and reconsidering and coming back to that point I made about being nimble but not being careless, we've decided to leave as a recommendation Liberty and Phoenix in the locations where they're placed to grow that specialized type of education that we can provide there. And sometime this fall, I'll come back with a recommendation for the future location of the Kennedy Metro program. I welcome any questions.
Ms. Duncan?
You know, I listened to the recommendation on the preschool at Stewart, and I'm just wondering why we're not thinking about Kennedy Metro being at Stewart, using that wing, instead of doing a preschool there that will have to have a lot of facilities renovation for small kids. So, I mean, what's the thinking here that we're not, that we want a preschool there?
The location, and we're still vetting options, but the location of Kennedy Metro, we want to be very centralized for transportation because it does pull countywide. The other thing with early childhood is we can be, unless we're doing major renovation, we can be pretty nimble with early childhood from year to year based on enrollment and the options that we have.
Are we projected to have enrollment that will fill these, or are we just trying to get space ready for when we have funding to support this early childhood influx?
Ideally, yes is the answer to that question. Your first point, that we're building them to fill. We're looking, I believe the numbers I was saying were 600 additional seats of early childhood by doing this.
Well, I know we're adding that. I mean, that will be available, but have we had a projection that says that we're going to have funding for those 600?
Cordelia, can you?
We do anticipate being able to handle that. One thing, the board has been clear that early childhood is a priority for the district. So we will make sure the funding is available, and then we also do not expect any major decreases in our early childhood grants for this upcoming year.
Okay.
Ms. Westland?
Thanks. Just a couple questions. About the early childhood wing at the school at Norton Commons. And we talked about this a little bit after the meeting where we approved the school. What is the discussion about where that would go? I mean, that property is pretty tight, right? And the school is initially designed for like 600 kids, something like that. Are you planning to add to that design, or what?
One of the things is right now we have a design that's almost 10 years old now, that the footprint that we had. But our common design, as I was talking about with Farmer and Stouffer earlier, we give the ability to add on to the end of each building. So the idea would be, as we build the building, we go ahead and put that add-on in from the very beginning to have those additional early childhood seats there.
And I should have asked this one earlier on the architecture thing, but you're going to work with the site there. And initially, 10 years ago, design was kind of to fit with that area.
Yes.
And that's still going to continue?
Yes, we're still looking at the same initial footprint.
Okay. And on the Kennedy Metro Middle School, just to follow up on what Ms. Duncan said, I don't have any ideas of where it should go, but that's an important school, you know,
Absolutely.
Kennedy Metro, and I would hope that the work to place it somewhere goes pretty quickly so people feel like they all have a place and they know where their future of the school is going to be. So I assume you have a group working on that.
Yes, and I want to stress we're not eliminating Kennedy Metro, and that's
Right.
not the recommendation.
Okay.
Literally, though, and one of the reasons for the impetus for moving so quickly with this is by the end of next month, we'll have all of our publications together for enrollment for 15-16. So we need to move forward with the elementary school.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Mr. Brady?
Just a point of clarification about Kennedy Metro. Could you please tell us, and I know the board probably knows this, but the public needs to hear this as well, what the current capacity of Kennedy Metro is versus what the current enrollment is, or the proposed enrollment?
Kennedy Metro can hold approximately 660 students. Kennedy Metro School hovers around 100 kids at any time throughout the year.
Okay, so this is a better utilization of resources and facilities.
And given the location, Kennedy Metro is located basically at the corner of Taylorsville and Hurstbourne. So it's a very central location for this type of work too.
Okay, thanks.
I think we also have to keep in mind the number of kids who filter through Kennedy, and it's not they're not all. It's not capped at 100,
Yeah.
and that's all we ever have there, because it does. I think they had 500 kids that filtered through there last year. So it is a hugely critical part of our plan that we need to have a great space for.
Mr. Jones?
So I'm just going to say it. I'm a little bit lost to have a verbal report on this stuff after a lot of, sort of really good detail. But back up and tell me who's going to be at Myers in the fall.
In the fall of 15 at Myers, you're going to have early childhood classrooms.
What about in?
Oh, fall of 14, you
2
have
weeks.
Phoenix School of Discovery and early childhood classrooms.
Okay, that's what I thought. So Phoenix is moving to Myers.
Yes.
Already there. That's already happened. All right. So the only piece of what you presented to us in June that's not going to happen is that Kennedy Metro is not going to move to the Liberty campus.
And Liberty is not going to move to the Myers location.
Okay. All right.
Liberty will stay put, and we're going to find an alternate location for Kennedy.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
I have some quick questions about the, you gave us a handout about the capital project dollars spent by the board district, and this chart was put together from 1989 to 2013. Could you tell me why we started with 1989 to 2013?
It was a 25-year picture. The facilities department put that together for me, and it was a 25-year snapshot.
Okay. And an example of a capital project. Okay. Would you give me an example of a capital project?
A capital project would be a roof, a renovation, a media center, new school being constructed. An HVAC system is one of our largest capital projects.
Okay, I asked because Board Member Brady spoke to the fact that there's a perception that the constituents in my community feel like that the dollars are not being spent there. And this chart will show what the dollars were that have been spent there. But the question I would like a more detailed accounting for the dollars, because the concern in the community that I serve is the lack of responsiveness to the district on completing projects. The example that I will name first is the Central High School pool, which was 10+ years out of service. Another example is an elementary school that has had a media center, which I think is a capital project, on the list for over 10 years. So although the dollars are showing up on here, the question in the community that I serve is the responsiveness of our district. And in looking at facilities, District 1, according to the chart that we have, shows 31 facilities. District 2 is next with 29 facilities, and District 5 is next with 21. So accordingly, by number of facilities, we would assume that the dollars would be more. So I'm just asking for more detail. I'm not arguing the point of what we are voting on tonight, but I am asking for some clarity because there is a question about responsiveness of when we do respond to the things that are necessary. And if you, and maybe no other board member wants that, I think it would be helpful for us to see by year what projects are in fact completed in the district. I know I would like it for District 1. If someone else does not want it for their district, please let Dr. Razor know. Those are my questions and my comments as it pertains to the spending of the dollars. Other comments? Ms. Haddad?
I thought we fixed the central pool. We were supposed to.
We have.
Okay.
The central pool was fixed, Ms. Haddad, but it had been requested to be fixed for 10+ years. It was out of service. Yeah. No, ma'am, it is fixed, but it was 10+, almost 13 years that it took for that to be taken care of. So that's the question, the responsiveness. And in another conversation, I know other board members have said that the schools have said to them that they have had projects on the list that have not been gotten to. And I know that there's an elementary school in my district that has had the media center on the list for 10 years that has not been taken care of as well. So I'm just speaking to those issues that I hear about, and I think that I'm not the only board member that is hearing some of those concerns.
One thing that I have discovered through this process is there's a lack of transparency within our facility planning process. And a commitment you have for me upon the approval of this and the ability of getting it up is, if you remember in my last presentation, and I apologize for not having visuals this evening, we'd kind of winnowed down to just it in my thoughts. But there was a list of things that needed to be done and where they were on that list, and that's something that I've spoke with principals about, and they would be very eager to see where they stood on the list as well, and how we make determinations, and if and when a school does sometimes leapfrog up the list, as I described with Field Elementary, because there was an abatement issue that had to be taken care of, that will be listed as well, because I feel like a lot of the issues and questions that we do have around facilities is because we just haven't readily provided the information.
Okay. Any other comments before I ask for a vote on the strategic facilities usage plan? Ms. Duncan?
Just one question. If a principal makes a facilities request and it's turned in, then will that request make the list at some point? Because sometimes I think they've made the request and it still doesn't appear on the list year after year. So I don't know. I mean, if they make a request, a facilities request, shouldn't that appear somewhere on the list?
It should. And one of the things also that I've gotten some really good feedback in talking with principals about is just showing them the list. Because, you know, with 155 buildings, there are quite a bit of projects. And as I told you in my last presentation, right now most everything we're doing is prioritizing because of critical need. So, you know, several of the principals I spoke with about this said, you know, it'd just be nice to know that the reason my floor isn't getting retiled is because I'm the 57th floor tile in the line.
Right. Yeah.
Ms. Haddad?
I think some money came to us, and Cordelia could probably answer it. When they have that money that we could spend, I think some things changed then, and then the previous superintendent wanted to add on for 20 to 1, so I think he changed the list quite a bit. But Cordelia, could you speak to the
Yes.
money that we had gotten? I think that changed some of the things that happened.
Right. In the stimulus funding, there was some money for capital projects, and part of that was the class size reduction, adding space for that, as well as the valley renovations was also part of that.
And they weren't necessarily on that list to be next. It was just something, because we had the money, those things happen.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the strategic facilities usage plan? Mr. Jones, second. Ms. Haddad, all those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We're now moving down to the discussion items, and there are no speakers on discussion items. The first item is the report on opening day preparations for 2014-15. Dr. Harkins.
And one of the things that we're proud of is all of the hard work of our staff on the first day of school, and we know that August 13th is the first day of school. And we thought it would be important if Dr. Razor reviewed what our standard operating procedures are for the first day of school. So he's going to review those quickly.
And as Dr. Hargan said, I'm very pleased to tell you that these are now our standard operating procedures for the first day of school. And we've gotten into a situation where it's become a cycle of continuous improvement. And I'll just go through these really quickly with you. These are our key areas of focus. First is preparation. We meet literally year-round on first day of school preparations. As I told you just a second ago, we'll start, once the school year starts, we will start preparing for the next school year. So we have a first day of school task force that literally meets year-round. Then what we want to do, what we found is the key to a smooth first day of school is communication with our schools, communication with our families, and making sure that the message is out there about what bus kids ride, how to get enrolled. We have mentioned that we have proactive enrollment now with the bus that we send around to neighborhoods, and also just through that communication, letting people know. We've also tried to create a really simple, uniform process that every school uses, that every school knows. And then finally, what this has allowed us to do is it has allowed us to build in contingency planning and the execution of the process, because when the first day of school rolls around, we know that the process is being followed, or we have people in place for that. So quickly, I'm going to go through some of these. I mentioned our preparation. As I said, the year-round back-to-school task force makes up transportation, academic services, technology, facilities, communication, and student assignment. And we really try to get everybody on the same page and keep everybody on the same page. As I said, in the early months, we meet maybe once a month. Now we're meeting once a week, and in many cases, people on the committee are talking at least once a day. The other thing that we like to do is we run simulations of our communications network for the first day using Skype drills and other technologies. We also have everyone who's going to work a depot come out and run a simulated depot so they know what they're doing. Also, speaking of depots, I'm very proud to report that we have 6 fewer elementary depots this year, and actually from this year to last year, about 1,500 less elementary kids going through a depot, which will streamline their trip home and will also hopefully streamline the first day of school quite a bit. In communication, we have a back-to-school website that has just went up. Not this one. Ignore August 20th. This is last year's back-to-school website. When I put this together, the new one hadn't been unveiled yet. And on that is every piece of information that a parent would need. We also have communication in the media, on the radio, having community events. Cards and table tents are set up. The web page is out there, like I said, and we get flyers to the daycares and in the neighborhoods, again, encouraging people to enroll. There is the bus that I was speaking of. I feel like I'm showing vacation photos. And really, a positive effect that we get from the bus is, and this is really anecdotally, is even the people who don't get on the bus, it reminds them, oh yeah, I need to do that. And it's really helped a lot. A really lean process that we have is the tagging process that we use with students, where they have their way to school and their way home school on there, and we also tag kindergartners in a separate color, because if something is likely to happen with a kid getting on the wrong bus or not knowing what to do, in many cases it is a kindergartner, and that way they stand out. And then finally, the first few days of school, not just the first day of school, we have response teams in many cases already in schools, helping our schools that we know get the most walk-ins and that have a little more difficulty on the first day of school. We have a hotline set up and also have basically what you could call a mission control, where we can help solve problems for schools and then get them the answers, solve problems for families and get them the answers. instead of the schools or the people who are having to do their job try to figure out the answers to the problems as well. We have over 300 people from central office repurpose themselves the first few days of school to help us at the depots. And one other sort of added aspect that we get from this is it really helps reinforce to a lot of our people why they do what they do. They're not just a payroll clerk or an operations secretary. When they get to assist kids the first day of school, that's a really positive experience. Like I said, just in case, we have the support center, deployable support teams. And another thing we also do is we keep additional buses on standby. So if there is a middle or high school bus that's running slowly, we can send a bus directly to an elementary school so the kids aren't there waiting on the first day of school. Our transportation hotline, 485-RIDE, will go online Sunday, August 10th, and we'll run it through the second day of school, August 15th. From Monday through Thursday, we start early, and then starting on the first day of school, we start it really early at 6 a.m. and run it to 6 p.m. And if, God forbid, there would be kids on buses at 6 p.m., the hotline won't shut down. The hotline's going to stay open until every kid gets home. And then, just like any organization in today's world, we're using state-of-the-art technology to aid this process. Any questions anyone may have about the first days of school preparation?
Ms. Westland?
We have quite a few new principals. Are they getting extra training in how to be a principal on the first day of school?
They are. Every year, all of our compounds meet with principals and walk them through this. Really, the thing that we try to be attuned to is, even more than the principals, if there's new secretaries in the building, because many times these first day of school responsibilities fall upon the secretaries. But yes, all of our principals that are new, and even some that aren't so new, get refreshed in this every year. And a big credit to Amy Dennis is when we started this process, is Amy checklisted everything, so it's really easy to see if you're off track or if you're on track.
Well, thanks a lot. And it's gone smoothly the last year or two, so we look forward to that happening again. Thank you.
Mr. Brady?
Let's talk about something that's been really popular for the last couple of weeks, and that's school supply list. I know that we're really trying to get to a point where make things a little bit more affordable to parents. And so I, as a parent of two, I appreciate the administration's efforts in this. But do we have, and I know that the Back to School site or page here on our website went live today, I believe, because it wasn't live as of last night when I looked. Do we have a list of school supply list available directly from this website? Because when I went through looking through it, I saw a list of school websites, but not a list of school supply list. And the reason I ask that is because I know on at least as of last night, when I was looking on my son's school site, there wasn't a supply list, at least not readily available. I did find one, but it was from a couple years back. So I'm just wanting to know if we don't have that list on here, and we're relying on the schools to put that on their websites, I would suggest that we rethink that plan, because it would be not only just advantageous to the parents to be able to have a one-stop list of, oh, here's a supply list for farmer. And I know that this is supposed to be a essential supply list, but there are some deviations by school that the principal, hopefully in a coordination with their teachers, have put together. So it's something that as a parent, I would really like to see. I think the community would like to see that. Plus, there's a lot of school supply stores out there that can just go to that site and print up their own list. So, and that would also help our parents. So do we have a plan for that?
I don't, because I knew that I'd seen the fundamental supply list, but we can encourage schools to link up theirs.
Right, and Mr. Brady, you're exactly right. The actual fundamental supply list has some discretion by the school, and they're to shoot it out to parents to make sure that parents have it and then post it on their own website. So we've been really grateful to the schools that have worked to respond so quickly to get that customized list up there. So, but we will certainly give that feedback to area superintendents to make sure that it's accessible for parents.
Well, I'll just let you know, as a parent who's on my school's email list, I have not received that yet, nor if I was a brand new parent, would the school even have my email address.
Okay, we will definitely give that feedback. That's helpful.
Other questions, Ms. Duncan?
I think the only question that I've received is concerning the change in daycares. And I know that the locations, the daycare locations, we're not picking up to the extent that we did before now. But I'm not sure I'm understanding how we're determining the daycares that we will pick up from, because I had a daycare that's in between Rutherford Elementary, which is in our cluster, and Fairdale Elementary, and the daycare was between there, and the parents were told that daycare no longer is in the cluster, and so that all those parents lost transportation for their kids to Fairdale Elementary. So how, I'm not sure, and at some point I think I just need somebody to show me how those daycares are determined to be in the cluster or out of the cluster, because it was, I mean, that's what I'm getting the calls on. I have quite a few families that lost transportation because of that, and that means they pulled out of the daycare. So you know, it hurts the daycare and it hurts everybody. But anyway, I just need somebody to help me explain that.
I can have someone put an explanation together. The real broad bottom line of it is in the transition from the 6 cluster to the 13 cluster system, some of the grandfathering is ending, and there was notification, I believe even last year, that some of the daycare transportation would be going away due to that. We've tried to accommodate where we can, and without knowing specifics and having that information in front of me, but I can't have somebody explain that to you.
All right, I appreciate it. I mean, the geography didn't make sense, and that was a challenge. It's a challenge to explain that to parents.
Mr. Jones?
Who is accountable for the first day going correctly?
Me.
Okay, you. All right. And who's accountable for the supply list for each school being available in time for parents to act on it?
I would say for each school, that would be the school principal.
The principal. Okay, and is that clear and communicated and people are working on that? Because it's getting close to too late to do anything about it.
Area superintendent sent a step-by-step list of what principals should do. So the area superintendents are checking, but it's the principal that's responsible.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to receive the report on the opening day preparations? Mr. Brady?
I know this is not your responsibility, so when I was talking about the websites, I know that's not your area, and I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but I know that's the communications department, which is another reason why I was harping on the fact that we need a communications director. So I don't want anyone to think that that is your ball, that's your responsibility. I know it's not.
I don't actually think that was not the answer. The answer is the principal is responsible in each case, and I think we've got to take the position here that there are no excuses. The principals have this ball on the supply list. The central office has done its part, and let's get it done.
And I agree. I wasn't responding to that. I was responding to what I said earlier. So,
is there a motion to receive the report on the opening day preparations? Motion, Mr. Jones. Do we have a motion in a second? I'm trying to get a motion in a second first. Motion. Well, I wanted to do motion. Oh, motion by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Hathaway. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you so much. I get it. I promise I do. We all did. Moving on to the 2013-14 Board of Education discussion agenda planning calendar. Planning calendar. Planning calendar. Ms. Westland.
I wanted to note our next budget-related issues. We have the tax rate hearing August 25th, and then when do we approve the working budget?
In September.
September 22nd. we'll have a work session on that September 8th. Okay, just wanted to clarify that for everybody.
Is there a motion to receive the planning calendar? Mr. Brady, second, Ms. Haddad. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Next item is board reports and requests. Ms. Duncan?
I've got 3 requests, and I know Dr. Rodofsky's not here tonight, but I had talked with Dr. Hargens about our priority school targets, and I think I would like to have a re-examination of those targets so that we can make sure that we're giving schools the right targets. They say they come from KDE, but you look at some of these targets, and we were told 90% was to be the attendance goal by 2022. And then when you look at some of the targets of the schools, like I noticed Fairdale immediately had 80, their target was 89.6 for 2014. And that we've got 9 years left, 89.6, and we've got 9 years then to get to the 90. So that didn't, some of these targets, I went through and figured them all last night, and it was, they're not even figured the same ways. Some of them are figured based on 2020. So I just hope we can go back and take a look at these targets and question how they were set, because I don't want these priority schools dealing with targets that aren't right. And I had a feeling they just need to be looked at again. Another request, I would love to see the enrollments, as we know right now, of the Phoenix School and of our Wagner Middle School and of Valley Middle School. If we can get, give us a quick picture of what enrollment looks like right now, and of kindergarten. What does kindergarten enrollment look like right now? And so we just kind of have an idea of if we're behind, or if we're on target, if we're attracting people or kids to these schools, if all that has happened in the way that we hope that it does happen. And also, one more thing. We are getting ready to be under barrage by political campaigns, especially for governor. And I think we have to be proactive in the message that we want to get out there on behalf of public schools, because we are getting ready to experience this campaign, which is going to be, I think, probably heavily negative toward public schools. So I'm just requesting that we develop, and I know we're going to have a communications person on board, but one of the things that we need to be looking at first is what can we do proactively to let the public know the truth before these myths get sprayed across the TV in ad after ad. And I just think we need a plan on something like that, Dr. Hargens.
I agree. Emphasize the positive.
Are there other board reports and requests? Have a couple. Oh, one more report. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thursday, South Jefferson Neighborhood Place is sponsoring the backpack giveaway at Stewart Middle School. And we'll be getting supplies together tomorrow, and then Thursday from 9 till noon, I believe, is the backpack giveaway for there. That is also sponsored by our alcohol and drug-free grant that's headed by Dodie Fletcher.
Okay, quickly, I'd like to go back to Dr. Harkins mentioned at the beginning our visit to Washington, D.C. with the Council of Great City Schools and being in the room with other large urban districts as we talked about the resolution for males of color that this board adopted. So thank you to the board for allowing us to make that trip. There was a lot of energy and enthusiasm and excitement in the room to make things better for students all over the country. It was quite an honor to go to a town hall meeting with other groups that have signed on to make this possible. The president of AT&T was there. They have signed on to provide mentors for young people. And he, in fact, had mentored a student who had graduated with a finance degree who is now going to work at AT&T. The NBA, as in basketball, was in the room. They have signed on to be mentors for these young men, and it was an honor to be in the room. We walked in the room and we walked upon Allen Houston, graduate of Ballard High School, NBA player. So it was quite an honor, and I wanted to thank the board and the community for making a difference in the lives of the students, because that is what we do every day. But to be there and to hear the president talk about it and the position that we can be better once we acknowledge that we need to be better to work to get there. So I thank you for that opportunity to be there. There are no words to describe being in the room with the President of the United States. That's just all I can say about it. But having done that, I want to make us accountable for what we agreed to do in our resolution for young males of color. So I'm asking Dr. Hargans if we could have quarterly reports on where we are with the things that are on this resolution, because it's various people in the district working together to move us forward in things like absenteeism, suspension, students that are in special programs, that we are working to make a difference, that we are increasing the number of males that are college and career ready, that we're increasing the number of males that are graduating from high school, and that we are preparing our young males. We prepare all students, but this is a resolution where we are paying particular attention, and I would just like for the board to receive quarterly reports from staff, not just one. It's not one department. This is a multi-effort for us to make that happen. I also want to acknowledge the fact that for the first time we are going to have the advanced program in every elementary school. That is huge. I don't know if anybody's paying attention, but we are having advanced program in every elementary school. So it's about access and opportunity for our students. So thank you, board, for making that happen. Thank you, staff, for making that happen. Again, it's opening the door for opportunity for our students, which is what we are empowered to do. So the request is for a quarterly report, and the other is a big thank you to acknowledge the opportunity to be in the room with a lot of concerned people in the United States about the education of our students, and to applaud this district for putting the advanced program in every elementary school. Congratulations to us, congratulations to the district. So that's all that I have to say about that, probably too much, but it's about our good news stories, and I think that it's our responsibility to tell them, so thank you for that. There are several speakers this evening, so we will get to that part of the program now. And one of the things that the last time when we had a large audience, I received some criticism that those that were live streaming this meeting could not see it because of their view was blocked. I don't think that will happen tonight, but I do want to acknowledge the fact that I did pay attention to the issue that some people felt like that they did not have an opportunity to see because we were blocking cameras. I do not think that's an issue tonight. So the process for the speakers, each speaker is allowed 3 minutes to address the board, and because of the number of speakers tonight, I'm going to hold you to that, so please don't be mad at me. I'm just telling you up front that it's 3 minutes, and it's 3 minutes, and it's 3 minutes. So that's it. I'd like to start with Mr. Aleman, A-L-E-M-A-N. Welcome, thank you. At the end of 2.5 minutes, the bell will sound once, and then you will have 30 seconds to finish your statement. At the end of 3 minutes, the bell will sound twice, indicating that your time is up. Welcome, and thank you for being here tonight, and it's 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Forgive me, I lost my paper, so I'm going to read from my phone. I typed it up. I'd like to begin by saying thank you for the opportunity to address the JCPS Board of Education. My name is Flaco Aliman, and I'm the Executive Director for Kentucky Jobs with Justice. Kentucky Jobs with Justice is a coalition of faith, labor, and community organizations across the state of Kentucky. We represent labor organizations, faith communities, as well as 10,000 activists across the state. As a parent, with a child who just graduated from JCPS, with another child that's a rising junior, and one that will be going into JCPS in the next couple years, I'd like to say that I value every teacher, every teaching assistant, every bus driver, every bookkeeper, clerk, classified employee, and every worker that is involved in JCPS, as well as you all. And so I'd like to say thank you to everybody today that makes JCPS work. Today, I'm here to talk about the contract negotiations between JCPS and our teachers, who are represented by the Jefferson County Teachers Association, and the wage opening negotiations between JCPS and our classified employees, who are represented by JCAESP, AFSCME Local 4011. As you may or may not know, the current contract negotiations with JCTA and the wage opener negotiations with AFSCME 4011 are not negotiations at all. They are, in reality, a farce, and nothing more than an opportunity for the JCPS negotiation team to figuratively slap every teacher, teaching assistant, technical employee, classroom assistant, bookkeeper, and clerk in the face. The fact that the JCPS bargaining team refuses to budge and negotiate is reprehensible, deplorable, and an embarrassment to JCPS, to Louisville, and to every parent that has a child in JCPS. As it currently stands, to my understanding, JCPS utterly refuses to offer anything above the 1% raise mandated by state law to our teachers, who are tasked with educating our children in a world where standards are fluid, competition is at an all-time high, and parents' expectations are reaching new heights. JCPS further wants to freeze the step raises from our classified employees and strip them of their Me Too clause, from the very folks who work alongside our teachers, who are subjected to physical violence. Just talked to a woman outside this afternoon, sharing her story with me. These workers who work for such low wages that only someone who loves our children would show up every day knowing that they can make more in the fast food industry than working for JCPS. Our teachers and our classified workers deserve fair pay and a fair contract. Is that my time?
30 seconds.
Okay.
30 seconds.
So I implore today the JCPS Board of Education to direct our CFO, Cordelia Hardin, to present to you a transparent and accurate budget, which reflects the real numbers and figures used to understand how fair raises will factor into our budget, and that you direct our Superintendent, Donna Hargens, and the bargaining team to actually negotiate and bargain both with JCTA and AFSCME Local 4011, who represents our teachers and classified employees, to resolve these matters before school starts within the next 2 weeks.
That is it. Thank you. Our next speaker is Brent McKim. Our next speaker is Mr. Brent McKim. Mr. McKim, thank you for being here tonight.
Superintendent Hargens, school board members, I'd like to begin by talking to you about the information I just shared with you. If you look at the document that I've shared with you, beginning at the top in purple, you can see that in the school year 2011-12, the annual inflation rate in the U.S. was 3%. That means you had to earn 3% more just to break even on what your money would buy. During that year, if you look, JCPS teacher salaries went up by only 2.25%. That's in blue. Dropping down to the bottom, as you see, we actually lost ground to inflation. When the inflation rate was 3% and we only earned 2.25% more, our buying power went down by 0.75%. The next year, 2012-13, inflation was 1.7%, but our pay only increased by 0.5%, which means we lost another 1.2% in buying power on every single cell on the salary schedule. We moved backwards. The next year, inflation was 1.6%, but our pay raise was actually not a raise at all. It's like we're playing pay raise limbo and seeing how low we can go, because we actually went backwards and went down by 0.5%, so we lost another 2.1% to inflation. So over the 3 years since Dr. Hargens arrived in JCPS, the buying power on every single cell on the salary schedule has moved backwards. Now, I've met and talked with every single one of you on the school board, and every single one of you have said, you really believe, and I take you at your word, that you believe teachers should be paid more, they should earn more. So I have to believe that you don't realize what's happening, because I don't think you would be putting up with this if you did. I want to talk to you about why this is happening. Since I've been employed in JCPS, I've had the opportunity to work with 4 different superintendents. And the previous 3, prior to Dr. Hargens, always proposed the maximum amount of revenue for our district to invest in our kids, and the school board always approved the maximum amount of revenue each year. That has not happened since Dr. Hargens arrived. It hasn't been proposed other than 1 year, and that year it wasn't approved. So the way we wind up here, losing ground, not being able to invest in our kids, not being able to invest in the resources, the programs, the sort of salaries that help us attract and keep the employees we need, the sort of initiatives that make differences for kids. We can only do that if the school board steps up. The 7 members here should be the biggest pro-public education advocates in the county, looking to provide the schools with the most resources possible. So I'm here to say, on behalf of all of our teachers and other employees, please step up to the plate and do what's right for kids. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ms. Royce Whitman. Ms. Whitman, thank you for being here tonight.
Dr. Hargens and school board members, as I enter, my name is Royce Whitman and I'm a teacher at Crumbs Lane Elementary. As I enter my 27th year with JCPS, I'm planning to take a pay cut again. Last year with no raise and no step because I am at the end, and the cost of health care, I took a pay cut. With only a 1% raise and healthcare costs again increasing, I will take another pay cut this year. Last year, when I chose a lower cost health plan and went to fill my prescription, my bill was $800. I could not pay that, so I could not fill my prescriptions as needed. After no raise last year, you have offered us a 1% raise. This is not an offer, it is the law. Thank goodness that the state of Kentucky realizes that teachers need to be given some compensation for a basic cost of living, knowing that that alone is not enough. The state audit clearly states that there should be more teaching positions and less administrative positions. In response, you stated that you would work with school SBDMs in making staffing decisions, which actually has nothing to do with administrative positions. And yet at the same time, as we go into this new year with less teaching positions and more administrative positions, where does that money come from? Do you really think that is best for students? This money should be going to teachers and educators and students. I understand that your biggest priority is community perception. Your number one priority should be students and the people that work one-on-one with them on a daily basis, teachers and classified employees. It is a slap in the face for us that not only do you not include us in planning, but you do not give us fair pay increase for all that we do. You should be changing community perception by educating the community on the very people that care most about the students, the teachers. The teachers have spent money to go to school and are trained. We have master's degrees, rank 1s, national board certifications. We are bogged down with student loans, spend hundreds of dollars of our own money for our students. We work hours over and beyond what is required, and we continue to do this because we care about our students. Instead of telling the community how important we are and all that we do, and how JCPS wants to attract and retain the best teachers for the students of this community, we are treated as if we don't make a difference. We are not only not compensated for what we're doing, but we're not included in any of the planning. Shame on you for not standing up for teachers and classified employees, especially those of you that have been in our shoes before. How soon you have forgotten what teachers do. Thanks tonight for Jobs with Justice for planning this rally tonight. It was not a JCTA event. Smaller counties around us have added to the state mandated 1%. We know Jefferson County can do this. Please do what is right and let our community, and more importantly our students, know that JCPS and educators are valued. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. George Donahue. Mr. George Donahue. Welcome, Mr. Donahue. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Hargens and board members. I stand before you today asking that you make a statement showing that you both value and support educational employees in JCPS. The current offer of a 1% raise, the minimum required by the state, is unacceptable. This is nothing more than a raise on paper. This year, all teachers are required to contribute an additional 0.75% towards retirement. And we will most likely see another increase in our insurance premiums coupled with a decrease in those benefits. This raise will not put any additional money into teachers' bank accounts, assist them in supporting their families, nor will it help to boost the economy. There are no extra spending dollars in this raise. Additionally, the offer of a 1% raise is, quite frankly, insulting. The fact that the superintendent will not even negotiate with the educators of this district is very discouraging. It is just another example reinforcing the district's message that educators are not valued. The lack of collaboration with educators shows that our voice means nothing. The continued increase in administrative and other staff members that do not directly work with the students, while at the same time decreasing those that do on a daily basis, is basically unexplainable. And the attitude that anyone can do our jobs is just plain ignorant. According to the current JCBE and JCTA agreement, a teacher's job starts at approximately 7:30 in the morning and ends at 2:30 each day. No respectable teacher walks in the door at 7:30 and leaves at 2:30. We show up early, we stay late, and we work weekends to grade papers, to meet and talk with parents, and to develop high-level learning opportunities for our students. We are taught to value that in our students, we look for their strengths, and we help them to overcome their weaknesses, and we do everything we can to bolster their self-esteem. Yet the message that our leaders send to us as educators is just the opposite. You have no worth. You do not work hard. You are not valued. When you hear this message over and over again, it becomes extremely difficult to show up for work every day at 6 a.m. and sometimes not leave until 5, possibly go to a school event, coach a team, work with a club, and then go home and grade papers and take care of your family. We work our summers doing PDs and other things. Today, I ask that you make every effort to support your teachers. Ask the superintendent to negotiate with us and give us what we deserve, an opportunity to continue to teach and be respected in the community. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Mr. Shelby Lanier. Mr. Shelby Lanier. Welcome, Mr. Lanier. Thank you for being here.
Good evening. I'm going to be very brief. And I came here to commend not only the board, but these teachers. Because what I had to say to the board, I'm going to hand some literature out here to show what is happening with my grandchildren, my children who came from this system, ones who've gone to college and everything. They have done this because of the teachers. You know, none of you all taught them. But by the same token, you are the ones responsible for making sure that these teachers get a decent salary. I'm a retired police officer, y'all, so I'm familiar with what was going on there. They're giving you 2% raises, and inflation is going up 4 and 5%. Exactly. You cannot survive. I know police officers were moonlighting, doing other jobs. Teachers can't do that. No way in the world that a teacher can be working a second job and get the lesson plans and all of that kind of stuff together that you have to do to serve these students. Now, I know that they've been serving the students well because all of my children went through the Jefferson County public school system. My grandchildren are in there. My grandson has cerebral palsy. Teachers are teaching him. Teachers are doing this, you all. So I'm giving you credit for what these teachers are doing. And I'm saying what I want you to do is to commit to giving these teachers a decent salary so they can continue doing what they are doing for my grandchildren who are in this system right now. They can't do it. They can't do it like police. These teachers cannot do any moonlight. They can't do no moonlight. I sub-taught after I retired from the police, you all, so I know you have to bring those lesson plans in there. You have to have plans to do what it is that they're doing. So again, I didn't know about, but I'm here in support of these teachers. And if they're giving 1% minimum over here, Jefferson County Public Schools ought to at least be giving 2 or 3%. You ought to be giving more than the other small schools out here, the other small districts. You all ought to, that ought to be embarrassing. That these teachers are, I didn't even realize that until I came in here today. There's no way that you can make it off of no 3 or 2% raise, and inflation is going up, the price of everything is up. But I just want to pass this out. I have a copy of this for all of you all. And to say, now, I'm going to be out here, everybody know I've been an activist. Now, I'm going to be out here active now
Mr.
to
Lanier,
get these teachers
that's
a
it.
raise.
Thank you for being here. Our next speaker is Miss Jennifer Reese. Miss Jennifer Reese. Miss Jennifer Reese. Miss Jennifer Reese, last time. Okay. If she's in the other room, if someone would get her and bring her over here, we'll move on to the next speaker, Miss Latoya Malone. Latoya Malone. Miss Malone, thank you for being here.
Greetings. Like you said, my name is Latoya Malone. I am a 6th-year teacher here in Jefferson County. I'm a former student, and I can remember moments when I was a student, and I am very observant, and I remember some frustrations of some of my teachers. And I remember being in high school, and I remember my veterinarian teacher and the frustration she had about some money issues. Had no idea what it was about until I crossed over to the other side and I realized, aha, I see what you mean. My frustration with that is that I believe in the work of our school teachers. I became one, not because I wanted to, but because I felt like I needed to. There needed to be people inside of the building working with our children who care, who matter. It's not just about the curriculum that is set, but it's about believing in them and pouring into them and motivating them and encouraging them and inspiring them to be something more than what society has set for them to be, what is on TV, what the media esteems to be. I pour into my children not only the curriculum that you set, but their life goals. I'm a practical living specialist. My job is to take that curriculum and help them understand the passion behind it and why they need it in order for them to become a successful member of society. My job is taken very seriously by me, and I make sure my students understand the seriousness of my job. When I speak to them and they want to act silly, I let them know this is not the time. We are not time wasters. We have a job to do. After that bell rings, you want to go home and be silly? Fine, so be it. But until then, let's get busy. I believe in the work of our teachers. I became a teacher because of it. I remember my humble beginnings, and I remember the teachers who poured into me when I chose to be lazy. I knew I was being lazy. I just wanted to see what my teachers would say and do. I'm not going to lie. That's the truth. The reality is that there are things that we deal with that you all put upon us. There are things that we deal with that our children put upon us. But at the end of the day, we take all of that heat and we make a very nice pot of something good that comes out to be a productive citizen in this society. Why should every time we talk about money, we are the ones who get the brim of it? We are the ones who are on the back burner. We are the ones who have to sit and bear and hope and pray that things happen for us. We are the ones that really make things happen. If teachers are not in those buildings, who would be there for those fire drills? Who would be there to put those kids on the buses? Who would be there when the parents may not show up till late or for whatever emergency happens in their life? If we, the teachers, are not there to take on the roles that we are not really paid to do but choose to do because we believe in our kids and we love our kids, then what would happen? How can you say you value me and the work that I do when every year when you talk about money, you want to talk about taking something away from me that is law? You want to take something away from me that I work for every day. Summertime may be summertime away from the kids, but it's never away from the kids in my mind. I work hard every day, 365. Nobody can debate it because my daughter knows it, she feels it, and she is distinguished too.
Our next speaker is Mr. Tom Moffitt. Mr. Moffitt, Mr. Tom Moffitt. Mr. Moffitt, thank you for being here tonight. We will have 2 additional speakers after Mr. Moffitt, and then the board is scheduled for an executive session. Thank you, Mr. Moffitt, for being here tonight.
I have a confession to make to the teachers in the room. When I first saw, in the context of the way schools have been cut in this country in the last few years, and I first saw that there was a proposal for a 1% raise, I thought, wonder if that's the best they can do. The more I've been thinking about it, it just isn't anywhere near the best you can do. I even got out Strategic Plan Vision 2015. It starts with the journey to becoming the best urban district in the nation. If we want to be the best urban district in the nation, we've got to do better than other districts do. 1% is not better than other districts are doing. It goes on to say core values. The third one, what happens in the classroom matters most. And the fifth one, high quality teaching is the most powerful tool for helping students reach high standards. Now, if what happens in the classroom is the first thing, and high quality teaching is what it takes, you have heard teachers say they don't feel that that's what you're doing. They don't see the money behind these words. They don't see it in their paychecks. And when I started thinking about what a 1% raise means, I came up with, suppose a paycheck is $2,000, that's probably somewhere in the range. 1% is $20, but then you take away 3/4 of that and you've got $5. And then they told us that there are other things coming out and it's going to be 0. You can do better than that. We can do better than that. The people of Jefferson County, get out there and tell us what we have to do. And then $3.5 million is 1% for those teachers. You have $3.5 million in your budget.
Thank you, Mr. Moffitt. Our next speaker is Andrea Luego. Andrea Luego. Sorry if I mispronounced the last name. I'm sorry. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Ms. Andrea.
Hello. My name is Andrea Luano, and I'm here tonight as a parent in support of our JCPS teachers and classified employees. Not only is my child a student at JCPS, but he's also in an ECE classroom. So I am eternally grateful to Mrs. Malone and Sherry Willis and Sandy Mays and all the others who work for JCPS, really one-on-one, face-to-face with the students. And I'm not going to take any time, but I just want to ask Superintendent Hargens and the people who are negotiating with the teachers and also with the classified employees to please consider doing your moral duty, what is ethically right, paying these teachers what they are worth, you know, inspiring my student and others to be their best selves. It is shameful that a person can work full-time, 40 hours a week, and make $21,000. $21,000. But I am eternally grateful to them for coming into the classroom and doing that for my child, especially given the recent audit that says that we have a bloated administration throughout the county. So do what's right, pay these teachers what they're worth. This is ridiculous. It's shameful, shameful. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Candy McDaniel. Candy McDaniel. Candy, welcome. Thank you for being here tonight.
My notes are on my phone, so I apologize. My name is Candy McDaniel. I'm one of 2 NEA directors for the State of Kentucky Education Associations, well, the State of Kentucky's Kentucky Education Association. Mr. Brady, I've never met you before, but I think I might really like you, so we might want to meet later. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. Mr. Brady, earlier you stated that you felt that JCPS should be a leader. That's one of the things that you said. I wrote it down as soon as you said it in the overflow room. And that a district of your size should be an example. And I completely agree with that. I come from a smaller district. I'm asking you tonight to be the example. Lead the state. Give your employees a raise that at least breaks even with inflation, and bargain in good faith. Not everyone is fortunate enough to bargain. And I think that bargaining in good faith is the least that you can do. And you know, as educated individuals, that less buying power for your employees means less money in your economy. And this means a depressed economy. Help turn your economy around, invest in your children and in your workforce, and do what's right. And that's what I'm asking tonight, is for you to do what's right. Invest in these wonderful people who've come out tonight. Your classified and your certified staff are here to let you know that they need to be heard. They need you to listen to them. They're hardworking individuals. Be a leader. Be the example. Thank you.
Thank you. That, I believe, completes our speakers. Because we have people in 2 rooms, I am going to ask one last time, Jennifer Reese, if Jennifer Reese is in the room. Okay, that completes our speakers for tonight. At this time, it is necessary for the board to... It's necessary for the board to go into an executive session. So at this time, it is necessary for the Board of Education to enter into executive session. Do I have a motion that the Board of Education meet in executive session for the purpose of discussions relating to negotiation strategies pursuant to KRS 61.8101E of the Kentucky Open Meetings Act? Is there a motion? Ms. Westland, second. Mr. Hadaway, all those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We will go upstairs to the superintendent's conference room because our this room is occupied.
So when you make us late, that means I get your treats? Because, you know, you might not want to make that statement. Thanks for waiting on me today. Dude, I had to park. I should have just took a bus in. You know, it was like.
Well, you're never late. It's always needed. You're right. I get it.
So I was like, I started driving out of my wife's educator, and she said, we busy.